Now, in our very first story, investigative journalist Anas Aremeyaw Anas had stated ahead of the release of his number 12 documentary on corruption in football in Ghana that it was going to shake the very foundations of the sport in the country. And the last few days have borne testimony to that. The Ghana Football Association president, who was implicated in the video expose, has in the last few hours resigned his position at the FA. His resignation was announced after an executive committee meeting. Here is a statement he released through the FA, and I'll read it to you. After a meeting of the executive committee this afternoon, I decided to resign as president of the Ghana Football Association. It stemmed out of the controversies generated by investigative report of Tiger IPI. In the said report, I committed a series of errors of indiscretion. I gravely associated the highest office of the land, the presidency, with private discussions I had with, in quotes, scammers who deceived me into thinking they were genuine persons interested in investing in our country. I hereby apologize unreservedly to the father of the nation, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, His Excellency the Vice President Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers of State for indiscretion in associating them with the private conversations on the video. I wish to clarify that at no time prior to or subsequent to any deliberations on the video did I consult, contact or inform any government official about discussions on the video. I take sole and personal responsibility for the proceedings on the video. I wish to apologize to my family, work, colleagues, friends, associates, and the people of Ghana for the disappointment my indiscretion has caused them. This is by no means an admission of wrongdoing for issues on the video. Now, joining me in the studio right now is Joy Sports editor Nathaniel Atto. Nathaniel, there have been a number of things that's happened in the last few days, and this one is, I would say, is about the biggest that has taken place since the release of the Anas Aremeyaw Anas documentary. But prior to this statement being released, or the resignation of the FA boss, there was a statement released by FIFA, World Football Governing Body FIFA, saying that Kwesi Nyantakyi, the FA president of Ghana, has been banned provisionally for 90 days. We're going to be looking at all of that. But Nat, what do you make of this resignation by the FA president? Well,
in your introductory remarks, you mentioned that a lot has happened. I think that this is the longest 3 days of our lives as people in football and people in sports journalism for that matter, or journalism for that matter, in the nation. Nobody else is talking about anything else. No other news item is able to surface. No other brand is able to overshadow this. And it tells you that truly football is the passion of the nation. You know, the passion with which people have followed this, and the verve and the energy with which people have followed, you know, the turn of events and the various twists and turns also just tells you that there is a lot of interest in this. Now, I was expecting this to, you know, happen a little earlier, at least even precede the decision that was taken by FIFA. I mean, a few people were even asking the question, okay, so if you were banned, then in what capacity did you issue the resignation? You know, all of these are questions that have come up. But I think it is important to note a few things in the release that was signed by Kwesi Nyantakyi, yes, or the apology that was signed. Yeah. You realize that he steers clear of, you know, putting anything in terms of mud or a dent on the image of the president, the vice president, and the deputy minister and other ministers or other personalities that he mentioned in the video. He was very express on that. He was very clear on that. But then when he comes to the end of the statement, he says that this is by no means an admission of guilt. Kwesi Nyantakyi is a lawyer. I'm sure that he's also surrounded himself with a lot of people who are giving him a lot of legal advice, and I'm sure that it is based on that he's put together or has constructed this kind of a statement with this kind of language, with these kinds of undertones. Now, I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen in the coming days, because that will be interesting. There's an indication that he will, you know, organize another form of communication or another form of correspondence between himself and the public to speak about the content of the video that was released.
Now, the FA president has resigned. Now, before his resignation, government had taken said it was taking steps to dissolve the FA. Now that the FA president has resigned, do you think it will be necessary for government to still go ahead to dissolve the FA? Because here the guy has voluntarily gotten out of the picture.
Well, that's what many people have you know, expressed concern about, because at the end of the day, it's an individual. It would have been slightly different if you had, you know, 10, 20 officials of the FA, or probably half of the members of the executive committee. You had one executive committee member and the overall boss of the FA involved in this scandal. But here we are, we're talking about a dissolution of the whole FA. I think that in a way it is not fair, because at the end of the day, if there is a reorganization effort, you still need a certain core of those people, of that organization, to spearhead it or to go ahead with it. That is not to say that I'm very clear on what the football governing body is going to decide. Remember, we were expecting a total ban of Ghana from international football, but that hasn't happened yet. Yes, yeah. That hasn't happened yet. It tells you that as we speak, the Ghana Football Association is still recognized by FIFA, because no other communication has come to say anything otherwise. Yeah. So the Ghana Football Association is still legitimately recognized by FIFA.
All right. Now, let's quickly get onto the FIFA website, because FIFA has issued a statement regarding Kwesi Nyantakyi. So the statement is on your screens right now. It says, the chairperson of the adjudicatory chamber of the ethics committee has provisionally banned the president of the Ghana Football Association, GFA, and FIFA council member, Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi, for a duration of 90 days. The duration of the ban may be extended for an additional period not exceeding 45 days. During this time, Mr. Nyantakyi is banned from all football activities at both national and international level, administrative, sports, or any other. The ban comes into force immediately. The decision was taken upon the request of the chairperson of the investigatory chamber of the ethics committee carrying out the formal investigation proceedings into Mr. Nyantakyi pursuant to Article 83, Paragraph 1 and Article 84, Paragraph 2 of the FIFA Code of Ethics. So that's the statement coming from the football's world governing body, FIFA. Now, let's go over to Gary Alsmith, who's standing by at the Ghana Football Association offices here in Accra. Gary, what can you report?
Hello, Israel, and I'm at the offices of the Ghana Football Association, like you say, in Roman Ridge, just around the Ghana Institute of Journalism. All is very calm. There's nothing to report. We just know that the GFA offices are this way, just to my right, and we are walking there. There's a lot of police presence, heavy police presence there, and they are guarding the place. They've been there since yesterday, actually, and we know that some of the officials of the Ghana Football Association were not allowed to speak. They were not allowed to pick up their phones as well. So that is what we'll be looking at the moment. Let's not forget that the GFA Executive Committee had their meeting, but they did not meet here. They met at the M Plaza Hotel, we understand, which is where all the issues regarding Kwesi Nyantakyi's resignation were formalized. So here at the Ghana Football Association headquarters, there was no work done here. We understand that just a couple of officials came in to the offices today. Before they went in, they were frisked. It was made sure that they had no recording devices or anything. There was a story of one of the officials, even one of the officials who was a Muslim. He went to the mosque, came back, and he was told not to go in. And then the person who called to tell him not to go into the mosque has had his phone seized as well. So we don't understand what is going on. We understand that it's being treated as a crime scene as well, but none of the officials or police personnel are talking here. But as you can see behind me, those are the gates of the Ghana Football Association. They are closed, and we are getting the pictures. As we go closer to them, all the policemen have gone inside. Perhaps they don't want to be identified as well. So these are the offices of the GFA. It has been the home of Kwesi Nyantakyi as GFA president since 2005. This is where the plotting of Ghana's 3 World Cups has come from. The offices used to be somewhere around the Accra Sports Stadium, but it's been changed. This edifice was built with FIFA Goal project money, and it's been the home of Kwesi Nyantakyi, now a former GFA boss as well. So Israel, that's what we can report from here in Ridge.
All right, Gary, whilst we have you on, I just read the statement coming from FIFA a short while ago about Kwesi Nyantakyi being banned for what, provisionally being banned for like 90 days. Now, how do you connect the release of the announcement by FIFA and the resignation of the FA boss?
Like I said yesterday in our analysis, and like we've written on myjonline.com, I personally believe that the government, the Ghana Football Association, and FIFA are having some communication. Why? Because I know Kwesi Nyantakyi is that sort of person who will realize that this is what is going to happen. He is not going to sit down for events to overtake him, let's put it that way. He would have spoken to the government would have spoken to him, they would have pointed out the indiscretions in the videos, and they would have charted a course. So I believe everything that has been happening has been scripted. Israel, that is what I believe. The reaction of the government yesterday gave me the signal that it was not done in a vacuum. They knew exactly what they were doing. I'm sure if you ask people in high places in government right now, they will tell you that they knew that Kwesi Nyantakyi was going to resign. 2 weeks ago, right here, seated with you, I said something that became a bit controversial. Some people said, what was the proof? But we saw it in an analysis video. I mentioned how close Kwesi Nyantakyi was to the ruling government. I mentioned actually that he was a friend of the party. And then we saw in the video that it was mentioned by his accomplice, Abdullahi Alasan, a.k.a. Abu. He mentioned in the video that Kwesi Nyantakyi was actually a financier of the MPP during the elections. So, according to our sources, I mean, these things are things that are known at government level. And I repeat that let's not believe anything from a journalist's point of view when the government says that they have no relationship with Kwesi Nyantakyi. He is a big fish. He is a proper party man. He is a party official. And all these things have been communicated between FIFA, Kwesi Nyantakyi, and the government. And that's what we know.
Now, Gary, you talk about communication between the government, FIFA, and Kwesi Nyantakyi. Does that suggest, or are you by that suggesting that Ghana may have been spared a ban by FIFA if they are in some sort of agreement?
Well, that's an Israel, that's an interesting question, and I personally will be very, 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 very surprised if FIFA gave Ghana a ban, because this is the way the thing is working. Anas has said that he has provided the evidence to the World Football Governing Body. What is the kind of evidence they have? I mean, Israel, it is, without exaggerating, it is damning. FIFA will only give you a ban when they suspect government interference, okay? Recently, the rules were changed at FIFA when they had the FIFA reformed. Now the rules say that if the government unduly interferes in football, now the question obviously is, how does FIFA interpret undue interference or due interference? Now, the theory that some of us have is that the kind of evidence that Anas has given, for which reason FIFA are going to be communicating with the Ghanaian government. The Ghanaian government are simply going to tell them that, look, you know what? The corruption that we have seen means that it is necessary for our integrity as a government for us to restart everything, to press the reset button in our football. So FIFA, because of this evidence, we are asking you that this is why we didn't write in the statement that we are going to dissolve the Ghana Football Association. We said we are going to take steps. And when we say that we are going to take steps, we mean that we want to talk with you so that this is the evidence, this is the corruption, come and help us do it better. So personally, I'll be very, very surprised if FIFA does ban the Ghana Football Association, because I think that this kind of scenario is quite unprecedented. You don't often see FIFA being given the benefit of the doubt in such glaring and such obvious terms as Anas Aremeyaw has done with Kwesi Nyantakyi. And if you look at the reaction of Kwesi Nyantakyi and even the GFA, the posture also speaks volumes. I mean, this GFA, as one of my colleagues in the newsroom said, they are extremely, extremely stubborn. We are actually hearing that the day after Kwesi Nyantakyi was taken to the Criminal Investigations Department, he personally wanted to resign. It was members of his executive committee who told him that he had their support and so he should keep going. But the man himself wanted to resign, and he knew that the kind of evidence gotten against him was going to be a bit damning. It's unfortunate that he has waited this out for so long before resigning. But at the moment, I think that this is going to happen. Also, quickly, if I can note, Israel, right now, the Ghana Football Association does not have a president. The GFA does not have a vice president as well. That leaves a serious vacuum or a lacuna there. Who is going to take control of the Ghana Football Association? Because according to their statutes, a lot of their decisions cannot be taken without the say-so or without the input of the GFA president or the vice president, which leaves a big situation. And that is why the Ghana League Clubs Association have said that they are going to have an emergency meeting on Monday to determine what to do as well, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Gary. Now, I'll ask you to stay on because we're going to be continuing this conversation. So you stay on at the GFA offices just in case something comes up. But back here in the studio, Deputy Attorney General Joseph Penka has defended the president's decision to order the dissolution or the taking of steps for the dissolution of Ghana Football Association, saying the move was based on sound legal footing. Now, Mr. Penka tells journalists until a court order stops the government, the president's executive order to dissolve the FA stands. The chairman of Parliament's Subsidiary Legislation Committee, Mama Yarika, has described the move as illegal because the GFA is an association. But Mr. Penka says it was based on the law of necessity.
We are talking about the administration of football, where certain political decisions are taken to interfere with the running of football administration. But this one, crime has been committed, there is evidence to that effect, and people are being investigated and etc. And we've come to a realization that the majority of those who are involved, a very vast majority of those who are involved, are members of the administration of GFA. None of them is stepping aside. His Excellency the President, as the Chief Executive Officer, who swore by the Constitution. And remember, every other law comes bowing when the Constitution is invoked. And the President swore to defend the Constitution. And by swearing to defend the Constitution, the fundamental human rights section, and the directive principles of state policy, and executive powers given unto him, he had the right to straighten those curves and make the road clear.
I'm still interested in the very legal basis on which the president...
The doctrine of necessity I've indicated to you is law. It is invoked. Where you have realized that if it is not applied, a situation will get out of hand. It is invoked. I gave an example earlier. Let's say that the president is elected, sworn into office. He hasn't appointed his ministers. And a section part of Ghana, there is conflict. The law says that the only person who can impose a curfew in that situation is the Ministry of what? Interior, who has to bring it to Parliament and all that. And at the time the conflict is going on in an area, there's no Minister of Interior. In the name of law, you will sit down and allow the people to kill themselves? No, you invoke the doctrine of necessity. So the doctrine of necessity, which is rarely applied, is invoked in exceptional circumstances and situations such as this.
What if they defy this? Because the indication that last night's football game shouldn't have come on, but they virtually defied it. And some officials of the FA have given the hint that they think the president is powerless.
Until a court action reverses the executive order of the president, it stands.
Okay, so for you...
So whoever thinks that the president acted contrary to law can bring an action in court. and we are ready to defend it.
And if on their own they
we
continue
have to put
find
sanity in the system.
So you're still watching Joy News Prime here. We're taking a break, but the breaking news that we're dealing with all of this evening is the fact that Kwesi Nyantakyi has resigned as president of the Ghana Football Association. Now, in a statement released through the FA's website after a meeting of the executive committee on Friday afternoon, Mr. Nyantakyi apologized for the disappointment his indiscretion has caused, but maintained his resignation is by no means an admission of wrongdoing. Now, still ahead in the bulletin, investigative journalist Anas Anas, whose expose is responsible for the upheaval in the country's football fraternity, has sued the Member of Parliament for Asin Central, Kennedy Japong, for what he describes as defamatory remarks he's made about him in recent times in connection with his number 12 documentary. The MP has since issued a defiant response. We'll be hearing this response. But also ahead, we have a member of the Football Association joining us right here on Joy News Prime. Stay tuned. You're welcome back to Joy News Prime, and we'll continue our conversation regarding the breaking news we've had in the last hour. The Ghana Football Association President Kwesi Nyantakyi has resigned his position, and we're dissecting the issues here. Joining us right now is Nana Odro-Safo. He's a director of Brekum Chelsea. By virtue of that, he's a member of the Ghana Football Association. He's joined us for further discussions on this breaking news that we're just getting in the last hour. And in fact, as a culmination of events that have happened in the last 3 days regarding the number 12 documentary put out by Anas Aremia. Anas, thank you for making time to join us, Nana. Now, what do you make of this resignation by the FA president?
I think it's in order because people have been calling for it for so long. And if this have happened... When
you say they've been calling for it for so long, was it before? The calls before the documentary?
When the documentary came up, when he came back and was invited by the police, people thought he should step aside. If he's not stepping down, he should step aside, at least to soften the hearts of Ghanaians, and then investigation could continue. But he thought otherwise. And thinking otherwise, it came to a time people have to talk to him, and he was ready to resign until the president started a dissolving process, and also that huge letter came in today.
Would you have been part of the committee that that met today and received this letter from the FA president?
No, I'm not in that committee. Right. But I think the committee even met earlier to discuss the vice president, who should be the vice president. They were waiting for him. I think he was in that meeting, and he have to leave to the police to report as a routine. If
you're saying they were meeting to discuss who was going to be the vice president, it meant that they were contemplating something.
Yes.
What were they contemplating?
They were contemplating from the look of things, anything at all can happen, and there should be somebody there to take over when it's not there. In terms of per our regulations, formally we vote for people into that position, but now we handpick people by the president. So there is no other lacuna. There's no a place for somebody to say, after the president is no more, we are going to do this. So in this case, he needs to appoint somebody before he goes out.
All right.
I don't know whether he had information that FIFA is going to drop that letter.
We're hearing, or I'm hearing, that Nana Being Ayesing was the outgoing or the outgone FA president actually nominated Nana Being Ayesing as the vice president. Do you have any confirmation?
Yes.
He did?
Yes, he did.
But it was rejected?
It was rejected based on the fact that a member of the committee said the president have no locus.
So it appears all of a sudden he's lost his hold on the FA.
It's unfortunate. That's what people have been saying. Leave the place when the
applause is
loudest. You see, now it's like our presidents have lost everything. everything. Because I supported him all this while, and I still support him now, thinking that he will move on to CAF. Then we'll get a new president so we can bring things back and settle things. But
when you say bring things back and settle things, it means that you were not happy with the status quo.
You know, when you've been at a place for a very long time, and you are looking at your graph always goes up. You are going full speed. By a situation where you get a new person, you start from a flat where from this time, the mistakes that we have done earlier, like formally when we are voting, we vote the president and then we start voting from the down. But this time we are deciding to vote from down so that when we get everybody up and then we vote president. So the president will not have a grip on the people downstairs. You see, things have to change. There should be reforms. But if you have the same person there, those reforms that you want, you cannot get it.
You being an insider, how did you see the government's decision that it was the government's announcement that it was taking steps to dissolve the FA?
I think I still stand by my earlier decision that the government's steps was very harsh. In the sense that, or let me put it, the headline of the document was not the best.
They said they were taking steps.
No, you don't need to dissolve the GFA, because who is the GFA? It's the clubs, whereby, like I bet Crapper said this afternoon, the clubs are a liability company by guarantee. So they have an association. So the only place you can dissolve is the executive committee. When you dissolve executive committee, then we sit down and plan ahead. Because when you should use any force, it might not augur well for both clubs and then the presidency and the government.
Now, the football's world governing body, FIFA, has also released a statement. It announced that it is banning Kwesi Nyantakyi provisionally. The ban is going to be in effect for 90 days. An
extension of 45 days if the needs be.
If the need should be. Now, do you see a relation between government announcement and FIFA's announcement and the FA president's announcement?
Yes, I think it's just do I call it a coincidence, or maybe it's an intervention, God's intervention, that we should have this thing settled. You see, now you have FIFA banning you, stepping aside. You have the government dissolving your presidency. So the best thing for you is to throw in the towel, else you'll be like somebody recalcitrant. You not listen to anybody. No, you cannot say that because you don't deal in an aligned.
Now, Joy Sports editor Nathaniel Leto is still here with me in the studio. Nat, are you one of those who believes that there's a coincidence, there's some connection between the FIFA announcement, the government announcement, the FIFA announcement, and the announcement by the FA president?
I'm on a couple of platforms, and I attended St. Augustine's College with one very key, person within government. And I remember that during the, when the story was unfolding, he said something key, which then now makes a lot of sense. That everybody should be calm, and that something will be happening in the coming days and in the coming hours. So I guess that this is what was happening. So, like has been said, a lot of conversations have been had in the background, and what I was expecting, however, was that President Nyantakyi, former President Nyantakyi, would have just stepped aside, because you see, these feelers started coming in, these little whispers started coming in very early. Yesterday when I was here on this platform, I gave the example of the former FA chairman and Ghana's ambassador to Serbia as well, Dr. Nyahonya Utamakuru, saying it. The president of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana also said it at a certain point. I'm very sure that there were a few objective persons within the FA who also have said it. All that said and done, it's very instructive to also note that. I heard you use the word stubborn, and it's very, very apt. No, Gary used the word stubborn, and stubborn? It's a very apt. It's a very apt description for the executive committee of the FA, because you see, we've seen we've seen precedents. We've seen similar cases. I'm not saying that we've seen exact cases happen in other parts of the world. But then I thought that if you have the persons or the progress of Ghana football at heart, then you all come together as a unit and say, look, in as much as we support you, do the honorable thing, step aside. If it means that you can clear your name from what has happened, you clear your name and you are restored. But then everybody said, look, we are fully behind you. You remain the president of the Ghana FA. Carry on your work. And another disappointment that I have is that when all of this started, I'm sure that everybody, I mean, some people might have anticipated, you know, what was that? Especially Mr. Nyantechi himself, that look, because he went through the experience, he knew what every, the full, you know, he knows the full story because he was there, he was the main character in there. So I was expecting that steps be taken to appoint a vice president of the FA, so that we otherwise wouldn't have found ourselves in this situation.
Now, one other question I would want to put to you is, if you look at what has happened in the last 24 hours, government indicating that it was taking steps to dissolve the FA, then FIFA comes in to announce a ban of the FA president, and then his resignation. Do you think these would make government change its mind about taking steps to dissolve the FA? Can the FA be saved by this? But before we bring you that, I get the reaction from you. There's a reaction from the Wala Kingdom. Na Fuseni Seidu Pelpo IV has described as shameful the roles played by GFA President Kwesi Nyantechi and over 70 others in the latest investigative piece by the Tiger Eye team led by investigative journalist Anas Anas. He said he was to see one of his own being the principal actor, and he was ashamed to see one of his own being the principal actor, and has, on behalf of his people, apologized for the shameful act of the FA president. Now, Fuseni Pelpo made the statement in a speech read on his behalf during a courtesy call on him by Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, waging into the premiering of the latest documentary by Anas Anas, that Wana described it as shameful to see one of his subjects, Kwesi Nyantechi, as the principal actor.
It is sad to note that our football authority have marred the name of the country, which all of us as lovers of the game have turned to be an unfortunate incident. I wish to put on record that the president of the Ghana Football Association is my own son and a sub-divisional chief, and was installed as Janjana the first in this palace. On his behalf, I wish to apologize through you to the president and the people of Ghana for the harm that has caused this, our noble country.
Right, so that's the reaction there from the hometown of Kwesi Nyantechi. Now, I was asking the question earlier, Nat, do you think that government may want to reverse its decision or stop its attempts to dissolve the FA following the issues, the things that the developments in the last 24 hours?
Well, yes, I think that, you know, like has been said, there's a lot of dialogue ongoing. There's a lot of advice coming in. Remember that the government has its foundation as a political party, and in wanting to do politics and in wanting to continue to maintain a certain good image in the eyes of the people, you'd have to take certain decisions. The reason why the government thought it wise to come out and say we are taking steps. It is important to also note, however, you know, Israel, that yesterday when we were having the conversations with the Honorable Youth and Sports Minister, there was a bit of miscommunication, because while the government or Jubilee House was communicating that they were taking steps, he stated categorically that everything had been dissolved. The reason why we went to the extent of showing our viewers the images from the game. Eventually the game was played and there was a 2-2 result. So then what was the minister talking about when he said everything had been cancelled and that nothing was going to happen effective from last night? Right. You know, so there was that you know, and I think we should steer clear of some of these contradictions in times like these.
Nana, do you think that the GFA can be saved?
Oh yes, I believe it can be saved. That's why I said I started very hot, but today I've been very cool, because the government would not like to face the wrath of FIFA. So from the look of things, I know the government is going to put up a team that's going to take care of the transition, yes, for a time. But they have to tread cautiously because we don't have to do things to the wrath of FIFA. We should do things the way it should go. It will be okay. Just that I want the fans, the general public to just apologize to them that they should forgive us for whatever has happened and they should take us as their own. I know we are going to show a new leaf and we are going to give them a good leg. Right. Yes, I want to apologize to the general public. All right, thank you very much, Nana and Nathaniel. Now, we're going to be taking a break, but we're not done with the issues having to do with the shake-up or the upheaval in the football fraternity. Still, I heard in the bulletin, investigative journalist Anas Areme Anas, whose expose is responsible for the upheaval in the football fraternity. He has sued the Member of Parliament for Asin Central Kennedy Jipon for what he describes as defamatory remarks he's made about him in recent times in connection with his number 12 documentary. Up next, though, we bring you business news.
Hello, good evening. It's time for business now. And fisher folks at the Jamestown in Accra now mostly return from sea with nothing but waste, plastic waste. Tons of them, of course. Joy Business Sandra Afenu spent World Oceans Day today with the fisher folk and reports there is high deposits of toxic products in the Gulf of Guinea.
From candy wrappers to plastic bags and even electronics, it well appears the sea is not only home to aquatic creatures. Plastic waste are competing for space. Fishermen now return from sea with not only fish, but loads of plastic materials.
Bola chimo fe jinoni ban show me no kaji atewe anya analu tumo pad yo fe pad.
When it rains, a lot of filth is washed into the sea. As a result, we don't have a lot of catch when we go fishing. Sometimes we even catch menstrual parts and diapers.
Clement Kofi's claim was evident when near Accra, another fisherman returned from sea. He came back not only with fish, but rubbish.
I can take away about if our system in the oil GFA or I'm to forget to when you am now. As I want a tank, need to boil a tank. Need you do a cooking power for an echo. Shako Bell, ma'am. What do you want to if I was no, I may walk him. One wish. One wish show me. No, I know, bear shop.
So, what Nia and Accra has been telling me is that nowadays it's difficult for them to get a catch, and currently what he's doing is to sort out the refuse or the rubbish out of the fish that they brought from the shore. And what he's saying is that at the shore here, they don't have dustbins or waste containers. So, apart from the fact that people go dumping plastic waste into the sea, when they come back and then sort out this refuse from the sea, they don't have waste bins. So what they do is to leave it back here on the ground and then it's washed back into the sea. So it's a difficult site. I see things running from toffee wrappers. And then the most worrying one is sanitary pad wrappers, are some of the things that you can find in the sea mixed up with our fish. That's how dangerous the situation is.
Another fisherman, Seth Lati, complained about the high rate of fish depletion.
Now we only catch takeaway packs and plastic bags. 12 feet. Apart from the plastic waste in the sea, light fishing is also affecting our harvest.
This situation has affected the cost of fish on the market. We are suffering. We don't get fish to buy these days. Look at this canoe, for example. All they brought was rubbish. Globally, 8 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean each year, causing $11 billion in damage to marine ecosystem. Ghana has a deficit of over 60% production, importing over 600,000 metric tons of fish, as it produces less than 400,000 metric tons. As Ghana joins the rest of the world to mark Oceans Day, many hope government takes a bold step to ban plastics to save the country's ocean.
Quite an unfortunate situation. Away from that, the UK government says it has no intention of tightening requirements for covering loan disbursements to Ghana. This follows concerns that aid to the country could suffer as a result of rising perception of corruption incidents in the country. These concerns have been heightened by a recent expose by Anas Aremia Anas, which connected some senior government officials to serious corruption in local football administration. By the British High Commission to Ghana, Ian Walker tells Joy Business the development rather shows a lot is being done to expose these corrupt officials.
There have been some agitations with regards to Anas's expose among other corruption cases, which could have a negative impact on foreign direct investments. But the British High Commission has allayed fears such cases would affect foreign inflows.
Look, I think we must never be one-dimensional about things. I must think we must never think that because of corruption everything's a disaster. We must also never think that because things are great, they're they're absolutely fantastic. What we've got to be is real and realistic, and realistic in our exchanges. And I think that I know the UK thinks incredibly highly of Ghana. It thinks of Ghana as a great destination to do business, and it will think that even more if it grips some of the challenges of corruption that are not unique to Ghana. But I think on the back of what we've seen in the last few days, I think a sense of gripping that is exactly the kind of thing that gives investors confidence.
His Excellency Ian Walker spoke to Joy Business on the sidelines of a press launch of Guba Awards, an award scheme which seeks to promote closer economic, cultural and social links between Ghana and the United Kingdom. Chief Executive of Guba, Denta Moabin, tells Joy Business her outfit seeks to encourage diasporans to invest in the country.
And we want to put a spotlight on them so that they encourage the others that actually, hey, my sister is doing something here, let me also do something. We have categories like Ifi and Ifi. Ifi and Ifi is looking at Ghanaians who used to live in the UK and have decided to come back and set up their business. It encourages those outside that actually you can come back and make it. Because sometimes there's a fear that actually nothing works in Ghana, you can't do this. But can you imagine, we have Asians here, we have Chinese people here, we have Brazilians here. So why can't Ghanaians in the UK and around the world come back and set up their businesses? And so it's really important that we highlight some of these things and encourage ourselves.
The award ceremony will be held at the Intercontinental Hotel in London on the 14th of July this year. Bismarck Awuse's reports for Joy Business.
Former Chief Executive of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, Alex Mould, is charging government to do better analysis on the petroleum downstream sector before beginning to establish any new oil refinery in the country. According to him, the decision to establish a refinery could have both negative and positive impacts, which government should consider critically before making the final decision. Alex Mould made the call when commenting on the subject to refine or not to refine in West Africa at the closing panel discussion for the Ghana International Petroleum Conference in Accra.
Whether it is prepared to run Tamale Refinery in an efficient manner or run it in the manner it has been run in the last 15, 20 years on a party, stop, go way. And if it's prepared to run it efficiently, it needs to do the right thing. It needs to bring in the right process engineers to validate what the Tamale Refinery engineers are saying. Once the shareholder is sure that he can upgrade the refinery or he can fix the refinery, he needs to know how much he is going to spend. Once he knows how much he is going to spend, he now has to decide how he is going to raise that money. Are you going to raise, and because the shareholder is currently the government, the only way they can raise money is from taxes. So are you going to use your tax, revenue to fix the Tamale Refinery, or are you going to ask the Tamale Refinery to go on its own as a limited liability company that it is to the market to raise money which has proven quite difficult, or you're going to ask for new investors or new money to come into a Tamale refinery. You could do that by issuing an IPO like MTN is doing, and everybody's in a frenzy to buy MTN. I don't know whether people have been in a frenzy to buy a Tamale refinery IPO. But you can raise money through an IPO, or you can bring in a strategic investor. Now, that word strategic investor, we need to look at it very carefully. It means somebody is going to bring in money, help you rehabilitate your existing asset. He's going to take a share in that asset, and he's going to take control of that asset. Now, I'm not the shareholder. We all are the shareholder, actually.
Government is working closely with the Bank of Ghana to stabilize the Ghana cedi. This is one of several measures being worked out by managers of the economy to help deal with rising fuel prices. This morning, the following report.
Joy Business gathers the meeting, which has been ongoing for the past 2 days, was looking at some temporary measures to deal with the rising price of petroleum products. Per understanding, as part of the strategies, Bank of Ghana is expected to take additional measures to firmly stabilize the cedi by increasing dollar support as well as other regulatory measures. This is because some oil marketing companies are betting on the depreciating cedi to increase their prices. It is also looking at reducing the supply cost of some oil marketing companies, a move that would directly help reduce prices on the market. Government will as well take measures to lessen the impact of hikes on inflation and transport fares on the economy.
And that's all in business on Joy News Prime tonight. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a great week.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, investigative journalist Anas Anas promised his number 12 documentary was going to have a telling impact on this country.
When this story comes, there's going to be a lot of trouble.
Now, 2 days after the premiere of the video, in Ghana is talking about nothing else apart from the expose. On Thursday, government announced it was taking steps to dissolve the Ghana Football Association. Some 7 hours ago, football's world governing body FIFA announced it had provisionally banned Ghana FA President Kwesi Nyantakyi with the Independent Ethics Committee, saying in a statement, quote, he is to stay away from all football activities for 90 days, unquote. And then in the last 2 hours, Kwesi Nyantakyi also announced his resignation as FA President. On the back of all of that, investigative journalist Anas Anas, whose expose has caused this upheaval, has filed a defamation suit against the Member of Parliament for Asing Central, Kennedy Ejepong. The Tiger IPI head, whose latest investigative sting is shaking the foundations of Ghana football, is claiming 25 million cedis in damages from the new Patriotic Party member for comment he made about him. The journalist says are libelous. The suit follows weeks of media attacks by the MP against the investigative journalist in an attempt to stop him from airing the documentary number 12 detailing corruption in Ghana football. The suit filed on June 8 is requesting Mr. Ejepong to appear in court within 8 days or in default have judgment given against him without further notice. Now, apart from the damages of 25 million cedis, Anas Anas is also demanding costs, including legal fees. Joining me with a copy of the suit is Raymond Accra. Now, Raymond, what else is Anas saying in this suit?
Specifically, he makes reference to 4 different occasions where the MP appeared on radio and TV and actually made specific comments that were very injurious to his reputation and to himself. So these are 29th of May 2018, which was on Adum TV's Pampaso, and some days after that, the 30th of May 2018, on 2 TV, similar comments were made, and also this radio station, he says, has links all over the country, including ASFM in Kumasi 2, and was broadcast across the country. On the 31st of May 2018, there was another broadcast on Boiling Point on Oman FM, and finally on June 2018, June 4th, on Jasusem on Adum FM, similar comments were made. He is particularly concerned about specific comments that seeks among other things to call him. So Mr. Japan called him evil and dishonest person and proceeded to say that he's a self-confessed criminal who engages in murder, stealing, defrauding by false pretenses, corruption, and or with public officials, extortion, assault, abetment of assault, threat of harm and threat of death, tax evasion, custom duty evasion, forgery, impersonation as a lawyer, bribery, land grabbing, interference with the administration of justice. So he says Anas is also an untruthful blackmailer and somebody with a contemptible character. To make things worse, and they complain that there was further derangement on the side of Anas that he pointed to, which he gave no evidence to. He proceeded by actually casting it by way of innuendo that the plaintiff, being Anas, conspired with the widow of Jose Boachi Danko-Addo, a former member of parliament, to cause the death of the said Jose Boachi Danko-Addo. Anas believes that the MP knowingly, willingly, and deliberately set out to defame him. He set out to cause irreparable damage to his reputation, and that it is putting his life at risk because the people who felt and previously felt he was a good man no longer see him in that particular light. He increasingly gets calls day after day about people now questioning his reputation, international reputation, and they list the places that he has worked and how this is affecting him personally. He wants the call to restrain him from making similar comments. He wants the call to justify because they believe he has no justification for it and that it is complete falsehood, which is what's being peddled by the member of parliament, and that all of the costs involved will do very small to repair his dented reputation, but at least will serve as a deterrent to others who would want to take a similar path. He believes that he served the nation truly and deep within his heart, and at least he doesn't deserve the kind of defamatory commentary that's being put out there by the MP.
All right. Now, the Asin Central MP, Kennedy Japan, has been speaking on Asempa FM. He says he is prepared to meet Anas Aremeyanas in court. Let's hear him.
Well, Meridi Obi Afremia Catchwell and Meridi Ewo social media. Now, me, I don't cry everything. Now, indeed, Ghana for a woman who must say, woman, Obi the Lago
say on Asempa FM.
Now, Onu Anas, or you need to check Ghana in Indiana. Now, comfort, Maka, where extortionist. A blackmailer. Yes, I have evidence to prove that.
You could see saying
FM. It's not a cry. On purpose, we have a cat, not seminal. But me say Mecca. Mecca, because on your thing God. Na any baby bar, one more loose, one more juma, one more properties, everything in this country. What person say Anas or any party will be Anas? Means no. I will display cash. I'll display cash. 25 million. I sit on that shit. I display cash. When you lose, I'll pay.
Say on Asempa
FM.
25 million Ghana cedis, honorable.
25 million Ghana. That's peanuts. No, I don't be any part of that one. Please. Please, no.
All right, so we do apologize for that comment he made, the word he used there. We should have gotten rid of that word. But Mr. Japong has also denied he made contemptuous statements against Parliament. Let's hear him.
And I'm saying, Beba, will be empty. No one can say, and you're useless assembly. Oh my! Said me say, a useless assembly. What I said was that, me say, Yaba parliamentary, and you know, Obia 3 years now, many Kokastamwa. When you pass out, send me in the summit. Who go back radio station, back on Wakaway, who go radio station, Wakaway. Now, I respect him, majority leader, I respect him. But I just say this no. What do I say? And this time of continuous many the call Pepe. Is it a contempt? Is it a contempt?
Okay, and you stand by the okay, and you say Usrontina or Danewano.
Makana, we are here. It's not a we need free parliament. I mean,
hey, Basa, I am Casio.
How many you are there? Free parliament. Me grab me pen some to enjoy the life. We in your parliament, you can buy from Yama.
You could see saying on Sempa FM.
Maybe our parliament is the other side of New York over here. Please. I'm not scared of anybody.
Okay.
All right, so that was the Asin Central MP Kennedy Jepong there. Now we're hoping to get to speak with a lawyer for Anas Aremia Anas to get his reaction to all that the MP has said. But I had this statement earlier from the firm of the Anas Aremia Anas. It says on Wednesday, 6th of June, the Adjudicatory Chamber of the FIFA Ethics Committee received a complaint request from Anas Aremia Anas through Cromwell Gray LLP to institute investigations into the conduct of Kwesi Nyantakyi based on the content of number 12. His temporary ban means there is a prima facie case for the Adjudicatory Chamber to look into its merit. So that's the statement I received earlier from the law chambers of Cromwell Gray LLP. That's representing Anas Aremia Anas. Now, what do you make of the comment by the Asin Central MP?
First, okay, so there's some level of denial. At the point, he creates the impression that he's not made any contemptible statement in Parliament, but the tape, if you listen to it, was pretty clear. I'm sure it was a lot of anger that made him make some of the comments. It looks like the response now is more sober, reflective, so he's toning down on the initial comments that he made there. On the substantive point, he's still insisting that Anas is a blackmailer, words that was pointed out in the particular, what they call it, writ, and yet he's repeating the same thing. But he boldly says, and with flagrant disregard for the procedures of the law, says that he is not afraid of paying 25 million Ghana cedi, which is the amount they are demanding in this particular case. Perhaps if Anas and Co knew, they would have the number to a bigger one. But it looks like he's defiant. It looks like he feels that, and there's a point that is also made in this. They are denying all the allegations he's made against them, completely, all of them, all together. He's insisting that they are also true. So instead of probably going out there to make a payment or settle the case out of court, I suspect you may want to fight. You may want to fight on the substantive point. If I had been told that truth is absolute defense in this particular defamatory case. But there are other indications where you said that the two conspired to kill a former MP. I'm wondering how he's going to garner the evidence to be supporting some of these issues, mindful of the fact that two people are standing trial at the High Court on this issue, and all of this proceedings has been happening in a couple of days that we've seen it. So it will be interesting to see how this will play out in court. And he says he has a crack team of lawyers. If it is not resolved out of court, it will be a very interesting case. And the danger then is that this is purely going to be monetary. It's not going to be pre-imprisonment or any of the other terms that people say. So it's purely a civil case as we have it today. The contempt issue in Parliament, the history of Parliament has been that sometimes their own, they deal with them in nicer ways. Remember the PC appeal for a particular case. Parliament insisted that all that he said were complete falsehood. Even when he went to apologize in there, years later, he still insisted that he was right. Yes, in that Vodafone incident. But Parliament did not throw him out. I think that Parliament consistently have had issues with dealing with their own the way they deal with outsiders. So this may be a test case to show whether under Professor Michael Onokwe, a different thing may be done. Yes.
Differently. Right, thank you very much, Raymond Aqua. Now, the other story in the news is that the owner of the facility where the Deputy CEO of the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program, Stacey Ofedaku, met her untimely death last month, has been granted bail to the tune of 50,000 cedis by an Accra Circuit Court. Chief Executive of the Advanced Bodies Cult Center, Dr. Dominic Obengfo, who has a charge of murder pending before an Accra District Court over Ms. Ofedaku's death, has been on remand since his arrest late last month. Dr. Dominic Obengfo is already being tried for operating an unlicensed medical facility and practicing medicine without a license. He pleaded not guilty to the charge of practicing without license when it was read to him before an Accra Circuit Court. There is more in the following report.
A visibly unwell Dr. Obengfo being aided by his physician and friends as he headed to court. The state prosecutors who had demanded his presence by asking the court for an order then read the charges against him once he made it into the courtroom. It included practicing medicine without a license and operating a medical facility without same. According to the facts of the case, in July 2015, investigations by the Medical and Dental Council revealed that Dr. Obengfo had failed to renew his license as a practitioner. The council also later established that his medical facility had also not been licensed as required by law. The doctor pleaded not guilty to the charges leveled against him. His lawyers then made a request for bail. They argued Dr. Obengfo was unwell and therefore required medical attention. They stated that the laws of Ghana allows all accused persons, irrespective of the crime, to be entitled to bail. A bail to the tune of 50,000 cedis was granted by the court with 2 sureties. The case has since been adjourned to July 6, where the state is expected to formally open its case against the doctor.
And 1 person has died and 3 others injured following violent clashes between the Gbese and Kole clans at Gamashi here in Accra. The clashes occurred ahead of the celebration of the annual Homo Festival of the Ga people. Customary rites were being held to lift the ban on noise making. Joy News was at the scene to speak with some residents.
The clashes occurred after the traditional leaders started the rites, which didn't go on well with some of the factions in the area. The community is under heavy security to forestall any more attacks. The residents has been explaining to Joy News what ensued earlier.
So as we were sitting, all of a sudden, we heard a gunshot. But it was because the palace was full up. We, the guys, we intend to sit outside so that the elders would be inside and then do as it is supposed to be done. So unfortunately, we were sitting when we heard a gunshot. The people coming were shooting directly. So they shot one of our guys and then injured other people. But on our way, we were told that we've lost the other guy because he was being shot directly. He was shot when he turned, another guy shot him with a pistol.
I was trying to figure out what is happening and who are those doing the thing. So he came and he came direct with a bullet. So you see, so he's dead now.
It was 2 bullets, and 1 guy to also sustain injuries, you know. But I heard that the pellets had been removed from his body, and by the TT, I think he's dead.
Though the situation has been brought under control, residents are calling for increased security presence in the area until the end of the entire festival. Jacqueline Johnson-Quay's reports for Joy News.
And finally, while jubilation greeted the end of the basic education certificate examination today at centers in Kumasi, it climaxed 5 days of rigorous exercise during which candidates wrote 9 papers. Nane Aljuma reports, despite what candidates describe as a tight schedule, they are confident of success.
Candidates were busily writing the social studies paper, the last and only for the day, as we moved from center to center. Unlike in the first 4 days when they wrote 2 papers on each, today they are looking forward to leaving the halls earlier. It's 15 minutes to 11 a.m. Candidates are already filing out of the examination halls with excitement on their faces. Smiles, shouts amid hugs characterize the moment as many of the JHS graduates change into customized t-shirts specially made for the symbolic day. I caught up with Isaiah Ofori of Christ Preparatory School, who had to be isolated to write his papers outside the examination hall due to a peculiar eye condition. He is thankful to exam officials for assisting him by carrying magnifying glasses to aid his work.
The treatment that they give to me, it was good. All the teachers helped me because when they place that I don't see, they'll just show their hands that I should do this, and I just do it, and that also helped me to write the exams. It was not difficult, so I was able to do it, so I'm very happy.
At Anglican Senior High School Center, excited candidates shared their experience.
I'm expecting to excel in the exams, as well as my colleagues.
We are going back to the school to jubilate before we will go back home. Yes.
We feel very excited. Not everyone gets it this way. We started from class 1 and now we think we've ended our JHS 3. So we are hoping that God will help us to continue our SHS level.
Our lenses later caught some students singing up and down the streets as they headed for their respective schools for the climax of the celebration. After a hot chase out, the team caught up with them.
That was pressure free. There was no pressure.
So why have you taken to the street to jubilate?
Yo, by the grace of God, we have finished our exams. Nothing happened to us. That's why we have jubilated. When I finish this exam, I know I seem that this exam is cheap. That's why I'm very happy. I'm jubilating.
Nana Yajima reporting.
Right, and that's how we end the bulletin for today. My name is Israel Line. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night and a great weekend.